everybody, this is Esme, and today's video is going to be a groom, tack up and ride with me, because on this particular day I actually had a show jumping lesson / arena cross country lesson, because in the arena that we were riding in they had some cross country jumps that we did as well, which was super fun. Anyway, so the first thing that I always do is get Casper's head collar and some treats and walk down to the bottom of the field, because recently the horses have been really enjoying being right down the bottom because that's where the most grass is. So I'll just walk down, and then obviously I will have to climb under the fence, and Mickey and Casper always come up to me because they know that they get treats, and I always have to bring extra treats because where there's a Casper there's always a Mickey, so I have to give Mickey treats as well, if not he feels left out. So when I get to Casper I put on his head collar, and as you can see here Mickey was giving me some licks because he was asking me for some more treats, but I'd already given them all to him, and then it's time to lead the boys up. So when I lead Casper up, Mickey always follows along. Usually he's actually the leader as well, so will sort of follow Mickey up to the top. As you can see, he always walks along with us, which is super cute. And at the moment, as you can see, the fields are so muddy. The gateway here is just horrible, so you can see Casper isn't the happiest about having to walk through this just because it is so muddy. So as you can see, we follow Mickey up to the top, and then when we get to the yard finally, after the long walk from the bottom of the field, I'll have to undo the gate, and I always have to be quite sneaky about this because sometimes Mickey likes to come in as well, so I have to shut it so only Casper gets through, so poor Mickey gets left outside. So the first thing I do when I get Casper to the yard is hose off his legs, because my goodness, they get so muddy from walking through the muddy fields and that gateway. So as you can see, they now are getting nice and shiny and clean, and all the mud is just being power washed off. Once Casper has had his legs all nice and washed, I'll then just pop him in his stable. This is just so his legs can dry before I start grooming him, and then by the time I've done all of this I usually start warming up, so I'll take my coat off, and next it's on to getting everything ready in the van. So then I will go into the tack room and get everything ready. So when I'm getting Casper's tack ready for an outing, I always do it in the same order, just because this helps me remember that I've got everything. So the first thing I'll pick out is the saddle pad, and today I went for the burnt orange Lemire. So I'll just put this on Casper's sort of saddle stand, and then I'll put the saddle on top and just sort of put the whole saddle together. So make sure I've got his stirrups, make sure I've got his girth, and I'll also attach the billet straps to the D-rings on Casper's saddle. I'll then put my stirrups in their stirrup covers, and this just helps to protect my saddle because the treads I have on my stirrups are quite spiky and I don't want my saddle to get scratched. And then obviously when Casper's saddle is all ready to go, I will walk down to the van and pop it in. So some of you might not actually know this, but the step up to the tack room in the van is quite big, and when you're holding a big bulky saddle it's not the easiest, but I do manage to put it up on the top here as you can see, and then I'll just hop down and get all the rest of the stuff. Today I actually managed to get all of the stuff in only 2 trips, so this was my second trip up. Here you can see I've got Casper's bridle, I've got my boots in my boot bag, I've got Casper's boots, I've got my gloves and my helmet. And something that I do is I use Casper's saddle stand as a hook for my bridle, which actually works pretty well. Another reason why I like getting Casper's tack ready and my stuff ready before I start grooming is it also means that if I'm in a rush then I don't have to worry about accidentally forgetting everything and everything is ready. So it also means that it gives me a little bit more time and flexibility about how long I can actually groom Casper for, because as you know, owning a grey, you can never get them perfectly clean. This means I usually groom Casper until 5 minutes before we need to leave. So the first thing I do is take off his rug, aka his mud sheet, because as you can see he was quite muddy today, but just on the areas where his rug wasn't really covering him, so mainly like on his face. Here I'm using a magic brush, which is a type of plastic curry comb, to get rid of most of the dried mud. On this particular day, I don't know what Casper had been doing, but his tail looked like he'd brought back a whole tree with him. He had so many leaves, so as you can see, I tried to shake the leaves out, I tried to brush the leaves out, but in the end I think I did manage to get them all out, and then afterwards I will brush his mane, and then flick off any of the rest of the dust using a dandy brush. Then once Casper is as clean as I can possibly get him, I'll then put on his travel boots just to protect his legs in the van, and I'll also put on a tail bandage as well. Because it is the winter and it was quite a chilly day on this particular day and Casper is clipped, I decided to put on his grey waffle rug while travelling. Once Casper is all ready to go, I'll then untie him and lead him down to the van, and as you can see, he was very happy about going out. He always loads first time, and I think he really does enjoy going out somewhere new. Hi, Casper. Then once I've tied up Casper, I'll just secure the middle partitioning and then up go the doors and we're off. Once we've arrived, I always like to open all of the doors so Casper can see where he's magically been transported to and just get used to his bearings. I'll also open the door in between the tack room and where Casper is, again for easy access, and I've also moved the middle partitioning across so he can't escape or anything, but it just gives me a lot more room when getting him ready and tacking him up. So as you can see, I will first take off all of his travel boots and swap them for his tendon boots as we're jumping today. And of course, Casper has to have a pre-little ride snack to keep him going. And because of this, I think Casper very much enjoys being tacked up in the van because he gets extra food, but also it means for me it's a lot easier because he's standing still and he's really settled and happy where he is. Once I've put on Casper's saddle, I'll then get myself ready, and because we were doing a couple cross-country style fences, I put on my body protector and my skull cap helmet. I always like to put on Casper's bridle last just because it means that I have as little as possible to do outside of the van, so all I have to do is check my girth and take off my stirrup covers. I actually always like to get to my lessons a little bit earlier than usual because this just means I can let Casper have a leg stretch after being in the van, and it also gives him a chance to get used to his environment. And on this particular day, he wasn't too sure about the chickens, so he gave them a little snort saying, "Hey bro, don't mess with me." After walk, trot and cantering on both reins, we then popped a couple of cross poles as a warm-up and then gradually moved it up to an upright and then an oxer just to help Casper find his rhythm and then settle him down because he hasn't been to a new place like this for quite a while, so he was a little bit spooky on this particular day. And then the last warm-up jump we did was an oxer, which was the size of the largest cross-country fence that they had here. This was so my instructor could see that Casper was comfortable jumping that height before we moved on to anything solid because he hasn't taught me cross-country before, and Casper and I are both a little bit unfit and rusty at the moment. The first jump we did, Casper flew over it, he was loving it, so this resulted in my guard going down a little bit to the second jump, causing a refusal, because he sort of looked at this triangle jump being like, "Mate, what is that? That is scary, no thank you." Anyway, I managed to get him over, and then we popped over some other spooky things such as a water tray and a brush as well. Today's lesson was quite technical for both of us, especially as Casper hasn't been anywhere like this for a while, and I had to ask him a lot of questions, especially with these skinnies that he wasn't too sure of at first because they were in the spooky corner. As the lesson progressed, I could really feel Casper becoming a lot more confident and a lot braver as he started taking me to the fences, and I could really feel that he was enjoying himself and loving the cross country. And in our lesson, Casper also made a little chicken friend, or should I say a cockerel friend. And here is me looking confused as I try to remember the very long course that Casper and I have to do, and we're both very unfit, and as you can see, we're both puffing. The course that we did started with show jumping fences and then ended with cross-country fences, and I was so happy with how Casper went. Although this is slightly smaller for ourselves, it was a very technical and long course, and for both of us being a little bit rusty, haven't been out for a while and both very unfit, I was really happy how he went. Even in the spooky corner where he had a little look at the arrowhead, but I put my leg on and he trusted me and went for it, so I was really happy with that. Here I just got a dodgy line and our rhythm wasn't great, so we just rolled the pole hole because he was also quite tired, but then he jumped this chair really nicely, so I was really happy with that, as well as the corner and the house. And it was really nice to see as the course progressed, he really started to get his rhythm and settle down, apart from when we got to this jump because there was some construction work going in the field next door. He wasn't too sure about it, but again I put my leg on and he went for it, so I was really happy about that. He also jumped the last 2 fences really nicely, and then on the last combination he got 2 strides in rather than 1, but he is quite a short strided horse, so that is just another thing that we need to work on. But at the end of the course, as you can see, I was so happy with him, but we were both absolutely shattered. We both learnt so much, as well as both having so much fun, and after our ride I just walked Casper off and gave him lots of pats. This time walking back he wasn't too spooky with the chickens, he was just too tired for anything. Literally I was untacking him and he just stands there. So once I've taken off his saddle and his bridle, I'll then put on his head collar and then get him ready for travelling back home. Then when Casper's all ready to go home, I'll load him up and shut up all the doors. And then we're home and I open up all of the doors again, and something I actually do is take off Casper's travel boots in the van, and this just means I don't have to take them off up in the yard and then carry them all the way back down again, because I keep his travel boots in the van so then they don't get lost. And I'll walk Casper up to the yard. And of course, whenever we come home from an outing, Mickey has to come up and say hello to his best friend Casper, because he's probably missed him while he's been gone. And Casper's favourite time, treat time. And don't worry, Mickey got some as well, guys. And lastly, I'll put Casper's turnout rug back on, because this night was actually going to be very chilly, and Casper is also a clipped horse, so this will keep him nice and toasty over the night. And then he went back out in the field, and as you can see, he had a nice celebratory roll after a good ride, and of course he always has to rub his face in the mud. And of course, with all good rolls, you got to finish it off with a good old shake. Anyway guys, I really hope you all liked today's video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!